Hey everyone, this is Mike Matsuno and welcome to the Man in Japan channel. I just wanted to reconnect with you one more time after I did a live stream a couple of weeks ago. And if any of you could at least let me know what's going on as far as the audio and is it synced with my lips? That's the main thing that I usually ask. I see Eva. Hi, Eva. Eva says, thanks for the live stream. Looking forward to seeing you in Hawaii. Yes, I will be returning to Hawaii next week after I finish teaching here at in Kyoto Nabe. So I thought I'd do one more here from Japan about the update on summer. There's not that much going on, but I just thought I'd do a short version just to fill people in on what's going on. First of all, as you probably know, the worst season to come to Japan is summer. As much as possible, you should try and avoid summer at all costs because it is the worst season. It's hot and it's humid. And nowadays, due to global warming and changing of weather patterns, it's even hotter than it used to be. And what is really sad is, and I have to take everything back about what I said. I used to say that summer in Japan, the only place to go is Hokkaido. Okay, I see CM. Hey, Mike, see you soon. Great. How's the audio? Is the audio and okay. J Star says the audio and video is working fine. Great, thanks. Okay, so I can start really. So for those of you who don't know me, I'm Mike Matsuno. If this is your first time and you're interested in topics about Japan, I usually talk about different things about Japan, things that to me are kind of interesting, maybe not to everyone, but I like to share. And if there's any questions or comments, please put them in the in the box and please write something that I can answer if you have any questions. I may not know the answer. However, I will give you at least my take on it. So what I said before is that Hokkaido used to Hokkaido used to be the only place that people should go in the summer because Japan was just too hot. And now I'm sorry, I have to take all of that back. Hokkaido is no longer the safe zone anymore. In fact, just last week, they reached 40 degrees. 40 degrees is 104 or 105 degrees Fahrenheit. And still they have high humidity. So basically, Hokkaido, not all the time, but for still part of the summer, can reach temperatures that are actually hotter than Honshu with high humidity. This never used to happen before. I always talk about when I did my cycling trip around Hokkaido, how it never got hotter than 65 degrees Fahrenheit, right? That's like what, 20 degrees centigrade, somewhere around there. So again, there's no place in Japan really that is so safe to come to in the summer. Safe in the sense that if you like hot temperatures with high humidity, then this is the place to come. But if not, avoid summer in Japan. And summers are going much longer. Well, this year was a little bit late because the rainy season, as I mentioned before, was very late and it was very short. I don't think it was longer than 7 to 10 days. And then summer started. So we had a late rainy season. Summer was a little late, I would say. But then that means I believe it's going to go quite long, probably into mid-October, maybe end of October. It'll still be warm. So just be mindful of that. But again, once it gets to the end of September, beginning of October, it tends to cool down a little bit, but it's still very warm. So right now, Japan is having record high temperatures. There's a heat wave. And of course, as I always say, people are dying because of heat exhaustion, heat stroke, and just what happens every year in Japan. And a lot of times it's the older people, the senior citizens who don't turn on their air condition at night for whatever reason. And I've talked about this before in previous live streams, is that they don't turn it on because when they were growing up, were told that not to keep the air condition on because first, it's bad for your health. It could cause pneumonia or something. And second, it was wasting electricity. Well, today in the news, almost every day, they are very strong and they say to everyone, please use your air conditioning. And if you worry about if sometimes it gets too cold, leave it at 27. I think 27 is somewhere around 80 degrees, somewhere around there. So a little bit less. So that's what they say, but people are still either forgetting or they they still don't do it, and so people are still passing away. A lot of people also are going to the beaches, to the rivers to cool down, and there's also been several incidents of people drowning, especially children or older people who fall into the river for whatever reason, and then they are drowning. So there's a lot of this kind of water accidents. Okay, get back to the comments. Oh, good. A lot of people on today. Great. See a lot of people. Evad is good. J-Star, y'all said that. J-Star, you tread. Japan real time, etc. Japan Ham, long time no see. Are you teaching again? Good that you can leave. It's brutal here in Kawanishi. Oh, I bet. All of Kansai is always super, super hot. Kyoto is one of the hottest places. It's going to hit 37, I think, today. I think yesterday it was 38. That's 100 degrees. And you have between 60 or 57% to like 70% humidity. And that's really, really unbearable. In fact, yesterday we had a pickleball tournament at Yawata City, which is next door to Kyoto Nabe. And I don't have a car, so I rode my bicycle out. It's about 10 kilometers, 6 miles. So it wasn't that bad in the morning. I left around 7:30. But again, it was hot along the way. And so I was already, when I got there, I was kind of tired already. But the tournament itself, and where we also practice, are in gyms. We cannot play outside because first, there's very few hard courts and they don't easily change. And usually these hard courts are private that teach tennis. So you can't just go to a public court and then switch it over like a lot of people in Hawaii do, where they can just bring their own nets and set up a pickleball court or 2 pickleball courts on 1 tennis court. You can't do that. So normally we play inside. Inside means that it's going to be like a elementary school gym or one of the city center gyms, like the one here in Kyoto Nabe or the one out in Yawata. And most of the gyms don't have air conditioning. So like yesterday, you're playing inside, which was probably 37 degrees centigrade or about 100 degrees centigrade. And then inside, which is hot, and it's like an oven at the beginning, right? Especially with all those bodies running around playing, and they have the windows open, but it doesn't really help. They got fans all around the courts, but it's not really doing that much. And you have high humidity. And all I could hear people say the entire time was, "Atsui desu ne, atsui desu ne." Now, a lot of times that's kind of a conversation, small talk piece, right? Where they open up, right? Like they said, "Atsui desu ne." And that starts like a conversation. It's like saying, "Hi, how are you?" or "Good to see you." But yesterday, everybody was saying it all the time. I don't even say it anymore because I just accept it's hot and can't do really much about it. And there was a tennis coach that is also playing pickleball. His name is Fukui-san. And Fukui-san kept saying, "Atsui desu ne." And I said, Fukui-san, you teach tennis. Like he was gonna go to teach tennis after pickleball. And he teaches outside courts. And I said, "I remember I played once. It's super hot." And this is what he told me. He said, "No, but it's different. At least outside you have a slight breeze or wind, and it's not like the gym where it holds in like almost like an oven, and the humidity even rises, especially with the bodies running around, And so he said it's actually cooler playing outside in the direct sunlight than actually in the gym, at least for him." And he said maybe he's not used to playing in the gym, outside he's used to. I'm not sure. But anyway, just giving you some perspective of how hot it is. And if you're going to play pickleball in Japan, and just for those who play pickleball out there, it's starting to happen in Japan. I still believe it's going to be another 2 or 3 years before it takes off. But just about a month ago in Kobe, they had the famous American guy. His name is Daniel Moore, I guess. He did like a session at these courts, and I think like 50 people came in, and he worked with them and things. And a lot of the Kyoto Nabe people did go. And it was very, so again, it was very interesting. So a lot of people it's happening. So, but it's slow. But when it does take off in Japan, I believe it's going to be a huge boom, because more than tennis, it's easier to play pickleball. It's not as strenuous, and you have such over 60% of the people are over 60. There's your market, right? They have time, they're quite healthy, and they want something to do. Pickleball would be ideal. It's just, the problem is there are not enough courts, and there are no hard courts like in America that you can just kind of convert easily. They have like those kind of surface. It's kind of like a sand, artificial turf-like surface they play tennis on. And that probably won't work for pickleball. So it means that either they have to come up with new courts, whether it's inside, which is going to be kind of hard because of expense, or maybe outside, figure out how to do something with the courts. But anyway, so pickleball is going to take off in Japan, but it's not yet here. But it's happening. It's happening. So anyway, yesterday we had the tournament, and it went quite well. So getting back to the comments here. Okay, basically, so we leave Japan. Yeah, as Towards 106 just wrote, I believe the only way to escape the heat in Japan is to leave Japan. No other choice. You could sit in an air-conditioned room like I just have the air condition on now. But one, it's cost. You can't run the air conditioner all day. It's going to be quite expensive because you're keeping it on all night too. And second, it's just that it can't be healthy to just stay indoors, right? So yeah, if you can, just escape. Before, my suggestion was always go to Hokkaido, but it sounds like now with global warming and the changing of weather patterns, it's different now. So you have to consider if you really want to come in the summer. Okay, J-Star. Okay, J-Star's from Alaska. Alaska's thermostat meets. Okay, so this is also going on in Alaska at the same time. So yes, and I remember even it was 15, no longer than that, 20 years ago. I was taking a group of relatives around Alaska, and we were in Valdez, and we stayed at the hotel, and it was so hot that they had no air conditioning because Alaska doesn't need air conditioning normally. And so they had the windows all open, but they were roasting. So that's the same thing that's going on in Hokkaido now. So a lot of the news shows these places like Kitami and Obuhiro, places that are more in the country, but because they're not a major tourist area usually too much, they don't have air conditioning. So the people are like roasting at night, and in the day because they don't have AC. And then they talked about, well, I got to get AC, and so big problems in Hokkaido as far as, good for the air conditioning business, but people are going to start putting in air conditioning, which will of course use more electricity. And the country is already, maxed out really as far as, purchasing oil and burning oil to create electricity, although some of it is hydro. So yeah, a lot of things going on with the heat. And in Hokkaido, they don't have air conditioning outside of the main cities. So it's quite tough. Same thing in Alaska. J-Star also wrote, the world is meeting the West Coast. Meeting West Coast sufferers. Yeah. Okay. West Coast is also suffering. Ernest Nomura. Is this the famous Ernest Nomura that I used to go and visit your grandmother? That you had the shoyu factory in Hawaii, the ice and shoyu factory. Is that famous Ernest Nomura that became an attorney? Is that you? Anyway, hi Ernest. Welcome with Michelle. I'm another Kamaaina who lives in Japan. Okay, Michelle. So you know how it is, how hot it is. Tuada 106. In Heian times, aristocrats would just leave Hokkaido in the summer. Yeah, but where would they go? Well, maybe only to the mountains. I would say that's the only place. J-Star, North America. Thank you for sharing the real life Japan. Many hosts don't tell the truth. Guy, see you soon, Mike. Japan Ham, 39 degrees is the forecast for Wednesday and Thursday here in Kawanishi. 39, yeah, that's about 100 degrees. It's crazy. You can only stay inside, right? So when we're playing pickleball, we're just sweating and sweating. And it's amazing now. I play 2 or 3 times a week, indoors, hot, no air conditioning, that no one has gotten heat stroke or gotten sick. And I remember every time we have a meeting at the beginning, right? Japanese style. We have a meeting of everybody, Japan. Very on the ball. People are prompt. People come early. People set up the nets. And they have the meeting at the beginning. And usually at the end, they kind of have a thank you, otsukare-sama. But at the beginning, they say, we are not responsible. So you need to drink water and hydrate on your own. That if anything happens and we have to call an ambulance, you are going to meiwaku or bother everybody because nobody can play. If the ambulance has to come, I'll stop, I'll play. They can't be playing while you're dying on the floor, right? So all play will stop. So that's the pressure point they're using. Like if you get sick or have heat exhaustion or pass out because of heat stroke, you're going to meiwaku on everybody else that they can't play. So hydrate, and they're not responsible for you. And so far, at our Kyoto Nabe pickleball club or group, no one has ever gotten sick yet or anything. So, keep your fingers crossed. But yeah, knock on wood. Great for them. Great for Kyoto Nabe. So let's see. Sorry. Okay, J-Star facts. Pickleball started in Bainbridge Island. Yes, it did in close to Seattle in Washington. What, 1950s was it? 1960s? I don't remember exactly. Hi, Yoso from Kyoto Nabe. Yeah, you're here, Kyoto Nabe. Surfers of other country, J Star. Thank you, J Star. Thank you for all joining in on the comments. You always knew about tours, climates in Alaska, like the Hokkaido urban city. Irasime 1, San Francisco won't make 70 degrees for the rest of July. We are having the coldest summer in decades. Okay, everybody, go to San Francisco. That's the only place that's cool in the world, it seems. I can't believe it. It's not going to even make it to 70 for the rest of July. I thought the West Coast was roasting. What's going on there? Irasime 1. Yaneto Bar, greetings from El Pais de la Eterna Primavera. The Eternal Spring. That's beautiful. This must be in Central Guatemala, I would guess, right? Yaneto Bar. J Star, my Alaska pickleball coat. No one wastes time or the places in an obvious. The pickleball coat. No one wastes time from the U.S. or the places it is in obvious. 1957. Okay, you have been there. Okay, so keep the comments coming, and I'll get to them every so often. So that's the summer in Japan. Avoid it at all costs unless you have no choice. If not, you're going to be staying inside most of the time. Again, though, if you're staying in a big city or a main city that has nice hotels, then of course the hotels are air conditioned, and at night you can sleep. The problem is always at night, and now people are keeping their air conditioning on. They have that word called netaya. Netaya means when it's 25 degrees centigrade and above. It means they call them sleepless, sweltering nights. But now with air conditioning, that's not so much of a factor. But again, as I said, when I first came to Japan 30 years ago, netaya was that you didn't use the air conditioning. You only had a fan at the most, or a timer and fan, and then you'd go to sleep and wake and of course wake up during the night because it's so hot. And netaya, every time it was netaya, it was like you knew you couldn't sleep, and you just felt miserable the next day. And never go drinking and drink too much, and then it's netaya, those days, and you wake up with a hangover when you wake up, when you overdrank and you have a netaya, and the next morning you don't sleep well. That's the most miserable feeling ever. Okay, maybe mine can do a location. 1950s, do a location call to the chat. So yeah, so maybe some of you can put down where you're coming from. That would help. If you're coming from San Francisco, or from Central America, or from Africa, or Japan, or Kyoto Nabe, just put down in the comments where you are from. That would help me too, because it's hard for me to guess. Some of you I know, but not everyone. Okay, so getting back to the live stream. That's summer, right? Now the reason, if you saw my thumbnail, and it was about UFJ, because I had a UFJ story that I wanted to tell. And so first, if you work in Japan, you are then taxed what is called like the resident tax. It's like a property and all, wherever you live, it's a resident tax that you pay, and it's a certain percentage of your salary. Now the Japanese government is always 1 year behind, so what you make the first year, you will be taxed on the second year. Okay, so the second year is taxing the first year, so it's 1 year behind. That also happens for medical insurance if you get it from the either way, from the company or from the national Kokumin Hoken, national health insurance. It's taxed a year later. Okay, so the first year you don't pay much tax at all. The second year you pay what the first year. The third year you pay what the second year you made, right? And this goes on. The problem is when you retire or you end your working career, then what happens is you have this balloon payment because you're probably at a higher level of pay than when you first started. So whatever you were making in that last year of working, you're going to be taxed the resident tax and the health insurance tax on that last year, and you pay it the next year. So if you're in Japan, you are paying the previous year, that last year's tax. And it can be quite expensive. Like I didn't make that much money, but it's somewhere, it could be between $10,000 to $15,000, or maybe I should say it in yen, a million to 1.5 million yen, somewhere around there, for the year that you retire. That's a huge balloon payment to make, right? So you have to be careful. So anyway, I had left my job last year, September, and I knew that at least for the 9 months that I work, I would have a big payment this year, hoping that it would be small, of course. Well, it does. It finally comes in June, and so it came. It came in like 2 letters, like this. If you can see, there's 2 letters, here, and one is for the resident tax, and one is for the other is for the resident tax and for the insurance, the health insurance. Okay, so I got these two. They came in the mail, and yes, it was really expensive. So I decided, well, I can't just take out. You can pay at the convenience store for any of these. You can pay, if you have the cash. The problem is it's a lot of money, so it's thousands of dollars, right? That first you can't go to the ATM and take out more than, I think depends on the ATM, but it could be between 100,000 to 500,000, depending on if it's your ATM or not. And I don't have the UFJ. I have the UFJ Bank. They don't have a branch here in Kyoto Nabe, so I would have to take out from another ATM, and I would have to pay. And I think there's a max. I think it's 100,000. So I couldn't get then, because I wanted to pay everything off at one time, because I didn't want to worry or get caught. And if I'm traveling or I'm outside of Japan, I didn't want to have some bill come in or somebody punish me or fine me for anything. So I said, okay, I'm going to pay it off. Then I decided I have to go to the bank. I have to go to UFJ Bank. So I waited. I paid the first month because it was due before, and so then I went to UFJ. Last Wednesday when I had a doctor's appointment, I went into Osaka. I had to find UFJ. I didn't realize that there's not that many UFJs I thought there were more. There used to be more, but they're downsizing also. So I finally found it. I go in, and the lady helps me. At the beginning, they're really nice. They got those people that are helping you with the initial phase. So I take these two. I show her both of these, and I ask her. I said, okay, so I want to pay for everything at one time. And she goes, okay. So she says, let me see it, and she takes it out, and then she looks at them, and then she goes, oh, and when you get the oh no look, it's something wrong, right? I'm going like, oh, what's the problem? I'm gonna pay directly from my bank account to pay off these for these taxes and expenses. And she says to me, oh, this one, I think it's the resident tax, or is it or maybe it's the health insurance one. This one you can pay. No, I'm sorry. This one you can pay. Okay? That's, I think, the resident tax. But the other ones, you cannot pay. And I said, what? These are both, if you look at it, they're both from Kyoto Nabe City Hall, right? They're both from Kyoto Nabe. They're both from the City Hall in Kyoto Nabe. So why would one be able to pay and the other not be able to pay? And then she takes it out, and I don't have it here anymore on this one, but I got this reversed, I'm sorry. So she takes it out, and then she shows me, it's not on this. There's a QR code on this one set, okay? I think it's the resident tax. And she goes, oh, if you have the QR code, then you can pay. But this one doesn't have the QR code, so you cannot. I said, I don't understand. This is Kyoto Nabe City Hall. Shouldn't it all be the same? And she goes, oh, no. And she says, UFJ and Kyoto Nabe, they had a contract and it was canceled. I don't know how she knew that. She goes, it was canceled, so you can't pay. And I'm thinking, like, since when do banks and city government offices have canceled contracts when you're just trying to pay money, right? I was like, what? And so I was kind of mad a little bit, like annoyed, maybe that's a better word. And so I said, okay, whatever I need to do, just let me pay. I want to pay everything that I can. So, so the one with the QR code you could, and the one without the QR code, you could not pay from the bank. You could only go to the banks that were on the back somewhere. It had the banks listed, and they were all Kyoto banks, right? So they kind of like support the local banks. So I'm thinking, huh, I don't have a Kyoto bank. I have UFJ, which is like a national bank, right? It's in everywhere, you would think, right? But because it's not a local bank, and Kyoto Nabe City Hall probably only works with Kyoto local banks, that I couldn't pay with my account at the bank. So I'm going like, I can't believe it. Honma kaina. This is like crazy. But she said, you can pay at the convenience store. And I'm thinking, well, I don't want to take the money. I didn't have the money to pay. So I'm thinking like, I cannot pay with my bank account directly from account to them. Like, for sure you get the money, right? But I can go to the convenience store with cash and pay for it. I couldn't believe. I don't know what the logic is in all of this, but that was the situation. So in the end, I end up paying. I paid all of this, half of it, a little less than half. And this one I took out and I go like, oh shoot, now what I'm gonna do? I guess I'll just have to pay because it's like broke it up into 10 months, right? So I said, okay, I'll pay for the first few months that I'm not here and then go. But then I thought, hey, I'm here in Osaka where they have a UFJ ATM. Why don't I just get the money and take the money out and go to the convenience store and pay? And I thought, wow, I don't want to pay the whole thing. I mean, it's because it's a lot of money to take out at once. But I said, but you know, Japan is safe. So I took the first 5 of these, so until January, where it came out, I don't know what it was, a few $1,000s. So I go to the ATM machine, UFJ, I take out that much money, go to the convenience store and pay for the first 5 of these receipt things that come, you know, and they stamp it and they accept it. So I don't have to pay again, but I have to remember from January on, I got to pay again. So that's how crazy the financial systems and the banks in Japan are. And I always complain about it. But really, I'm not joking. It's like they make it so hard for you to pay or to do anything that you want to pull your hair out. And even in the bank, okay, the bank is really kind, right? You go to UFJ, they have somebody there helping you at the beginning. She gives you a number, you sit down, you wait for your number, the number comes up, you go up there, and so they let you sit down first, right? You go up there and then you tell her what you want, you fill out a form, and then she gives you another number, and you go back and you sit down again, and you still gotta wait. So I waited twice, maybe 20 minutes total, to do this simple thing, and finally I was able to pay, and took care of that. And then I went to the ATM machine, and this I had to go back and forth because I didn't take out enough money at the beginning and on. Anyway, and pay half of the other one. But that's how crazy it is. And remember, I think I said in a previous live stream, when I went to UFJ and all I wanted to do was, I had this account since 1987 when it was Mitsubishi Ginko, Mitsubishi Bank. And so now, you know, UFJ, they consolidated and they're called UFJ now. And so my name is Mike Matsuno on the bank account, right? But I had so many problems all through the years, these 30 years, whatever, because sometimes I would write in katakana because Mike Matsuno in katakana is Mike Matsuno. Or I would write Matsuno Mike, or I would write big letters or small letters sometimes, depending, never thinking that it had to be exact. So if I use only big letters, it has to be all big letters, even when I transfer money or whatever. If you don't, it gets rejected. So I kept getting rejected for all kinds of things, paying for this insurance, paying for this. Everything was rejected as far as direct auto pay. So I always had to go and pay directly and, you know, something. So it was like, so finally I said, okay, I'm going to UFJ, make an appointment. I'm going to change the name on my bank account to make sure that wherever I go, I know exactly what I have to use. You know, what letters, big, small, all small, whatever. So I go, I make an appointment thinking that, okay, how hard can that be, right? You're going to get a new card with a new name, but it's me. The account is the same. I go. It takes 3 hours. 3 hours. I stand up, I go, and I have to sit down again. I stand and sit and wait 3 times. It took 3 hours just to do that. And finally, all I did was now my name on the bank account is the same as my alien registration, which is written in reverse. Matsuno Mike Hideo. My middle name is Hideo. So Matsuno Mike Hideo. And that sits on my bank account. And that is all in capital letters. If I write big letter and all small, or I do anything different, it will get rejected. So that's how detailed oriented. And I kept complaining to the lady who was helping me and saying, that's crazy. Like, my name is Mike Matsuno. You have my alien registration card. I'm Mike Matsuno. And in Japan, you might write Matsuno Mike Hideo because last name first. No, the bank has to be exactly. So even if my name is Mike Matsuno in hiragana, I'm a katakana, I cannot use that. It has to be exactly the way you signed up when you signed up to make your account. So that's Japan, the banking system that makes me super crazy, and it just blows my mind. And I never like to go into the bank because you're gonna end up waiting. So if any of you, if any of you are working and you're gonna retire, make sure if you know that you're going to be ready to make that balloon payment the next year. Save an extra 1 million to 2 million yen if you have to pay off all of this, the previous year's bills, especially if you're going to live in Japan. What is also happening is that there's a lot of foreigners who they leave after they finished working. And so that bill is floating, right? The bill. And it comes to their house, wherever it goes, or it gets sent back. And so the government now is talking about how do they collect from these people. Now, if you ever went back again to work, you'd be on record and you could never work there, or you'd have to pay that off to work again, I would guess, because you're on record. That's a huge thing, tax. You know, they don't fool around with the taxes. What I just read in the Japan Today news article was that they're trying to figure out now how to stop this from happening. And they're trying to think like, okay, when foreigners come to work, they're going to start charging them that first year and, you know, make it monthly allotments or whatever. And I think that's a great idea. I would have rather have that. You pay the first year so you don't at the end have this huge balloon payment of 1 million to 2 million yen. Even Japanese themselves tell me when they retire, a lot of them didn't remember or didn't expect or didn't know that a lot of them, like this one guy who plays pickleball with me, he's going back to work. He just retired last fall. He's going back to work because he said he has to pay for that balloon payment. He didn't realize it was going to be so huge. It is huge because you're getting a certain percent, I don't know what it is, 10% or whatever, total of 10% of your salary. I can't remember exactly, but it's huge. So there's a Japanese guy, not a foreigner, who didn't expect it or didn't remember, is now going back to work at another place so he can pay off his health insurance and his resident tax for the previous year. So just for those of you who are working in Japan and you're going to retire or leave, just letting you know that's what to expect. And the government is now trying to change that to make you pay, you know, like in America, you pay Social Security that when it gets taken out that year, right? I think that's a very logical way to do it. Then you don't have to worry about all of this 1 year later and all of this. So yes, that's just a quick update. But anyway, that's why the UFJ thumbnail was made. It was like, it made me so crazy. Every time I go into the bank, I'm going like, oh, they're super polite. They're super helpful. And the people on the front lines, they are not responsible for the policy, but the policies are like archaic. They're back like in some Jomon period. They're so old and so structured, and nobody ever wants to change anything. So it's going to stay the same. So just remember, in 50 years, it's going to be the same, I'm pretty sure. Okay, so let me see. Let's see, getting back to the comments. So yeah, if anybody could write where you're from, Yuzo from Kyoto Nabe. Let's see, Raseme, San Francisco. What I had. Oh yeah, Michelle. Yeah, you cannot believe. I never like to go into any bank or any government. That's why I try to pay everything really fast and quick, because I don't want any trouble later on, because they will find you. They will punish you, not necessarily fine-wise. I mean, there is also a small fine, but just to go through and jump the hoops, right? I talked once before also about like I had to return. I don't know if it was a used car or something, and then they gave me a check for the tax or the insurance from the government, and I got like a document that said like a check, and so I go to Kyoto Bank here, and they said, "Oh, you're not a member. You're not you don't have an account here. I said, no, but I'm just getting a government check. All I want to do is get the money, and then I have to come to a Kyoto bank. And they made me come back two times, I remember, because I didn't have this or I didn't have that. It was crazy. All I wanted to do was cash a government check, which you think that national government you would think that it has some overriding effect. The rules are the rules in Japan. Yeah. Okay. Hi, Yanez from Guatemala. Hey, nice. Thank you for joining us all the way from Guatemala. Thank you. Dark Horse. I bought a modem in Irion. Took me 3 minutes to choose which one and 40 minutes to check out and pay. That sounds like Japan. So anyway, that's the UFJ story and what's going on. Another thing I wanted to talk about. Oh, recently the LDP, the Liberal Democratic Party, they had a big election just a few days ago, and the LDP lost many seats. Not since I think it was 1955 that they've lost like the majority in both houses. And so now Ishida, the prime minister, is going to have to deal with working with the opposition. And you know who won? Yeah, it's a little bit scary, but it's just the start. But I don't think it's going to be like a Trump effect. But it's like the right, the more of the extreme right. They won 14 seats, I think it was, which is really a huge amount. So I hope that it's not doing that conservative shift to the right, because if that happens, that whole Trump thing, is bad news for Japan if it happens. So I don't know what's going on, but they did win 14 seats. Anyway, Ishida has to manage that. Now there's been a lot of calls from within his own party to resign. But the problem is if he resigns, then there's going to be a fight for the prime minister within their own party, as well as maybe the opposition will have been able to compromise or negotiate where one of the opposition parties can be the prime minister in exchange for something else. So it's a mess. It's a mess right now, and Ishida-san has said he's not going to go anywhere. But again, the calls for him to resign are stronger and stronger. And we'll see what happens. But yeah, Japanese politics is going to go in for a turmoil, and nothing's going to be decided for a while. It's going to be on and on, same old thing on the news, and we will see. As far as the tariffs go, I said before, I think Japan got played by the United States. Yeah, literally, America just bullied them into like take it or leave it kind of thing. So originally it was 25%, right? And Trump threatened to make it up to like 50% or whatever. And in the end, it sounds like the Japanese government at least tentatively agreed that it would be 15%, which is still very high because it was only 2.5. To go from 2.5% to 15 is huge. But everybody's, it's the whole psychological effect. That's the Trump style, right? Ask really big and then take halfway, and it's still like 5 times or 10 times more than it was before. So same idea. I think Japan got played by America all the way through. They don't have that much choice though in this because of the auto parts, and the automobiles are such a big part of the economy. But yeah, and you know what's sad, and I said this in my last live stream, is that Japan really thought America was their good friend, and that America would have some kind of favor with the American government or the Trump administration. And Trump did the small talk, and then all those guys came over, the treasury head and all those guys, and they made like everything was cool and fine. They were just setting them up, and Japan was so gullible in that way. In that way, Japan is just too trusting and too almost naive that they're being played by the Trump administration and Trump. And so now they're saying, okay, we got the deal, 15%. But only a few people are saying, yeah, but it was 2.5. That's a lot of money still, 2.5 to 15%. So I think they kind of tentatively accepted it. I don't know exactly. And they're going to invest $500 billion into America, and America gets 90% and Japan gets 10%. I don't know how that all works, but it's not going to be easy. And Japan is already suffering because of the yen-dollar exchange rate is not good for Japan. And Japan is high inflation is still really a problem. So they're getting hit 3 times with the tariffs, with inflation, and with the yen-dollar rate. So Japan is really SOL They are not in a good position right now. And so I don't think you'll see many Japanese traveling outside of Japan, or born. Some will go, of course, even though it's expensive, but not like before because of all of these factors. I mean, like I told you last time, I think an apple used to be 150 yen, right? And I thought, wow, that was expensive. And today it's 258 yen. Same apple, same size apple, Fuji apple. For one apple, not 1 pound or 1 kilogram, one apple is about over $2, right? And that's the going rate right now. So everything, inflation is high. So for you, if you have dollars or your currency is strong against the dollar, this is the time to come to Japan. Because again, I always say it's like a 30-40% fire sale. And I don't see the yen dropping against the dollar to the end of the year and probably into the early next year. I'm guessing, I don't know. But because of all the things going on. So Japan is really struggling right now, and they're not sure what to do with how to handle the terrorist thing. But they got played by the United States, and they got bullied. And so now, they were vulnerable, really. And that's what has happened. Really sad. Let's see. Okay, so that's what's going on. A couple other things. That's another thing I want to talk about. This is off that subject, but if you look at houses in Japan, they have these storm windows. They're like iron, and they're like, what do you call? They have slats in them, right? And they're supposed to be for storms or typhoons when they come, so they won't break the glass or shake through, right? They're storm windows. Now, I don't understand the storm windows, and I thought it was only maybe my neighbor right across from me, maybe 20 feet in front of me from this window. They got the storm windows closed now. Every morning about 6 a.m., they open them up, and they're noisy. They're like gada 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 gada. Now, those of you who are listening and are in Japan, you tell me if this is correct or not. So, yeah, storm shutters. Thank you, Michelle. So, do your neighbors open them every morning like 6 o'clock and then close them? Now, my neighbors, they close them at about, it's what, here in Japan, 11:45 a.m. They close them about 10 or 11. So normally though, they close at about 1 p.m. And I'm thinking to myself, when you close it, it's dark because it's like slanted. So they close it. That means that there's no real air circulation, and they have to use air conditioning and lights. Every day, doesn't matter if it's summer or not, my neighbors, they open and close it. Sometimes 2 times a day. They'll open it when it gets light, they'll close it again. But most of the day, less than, I would say they keep it open for 4 hours and then they close it. I don't understand what the logic there is. Why don't they just use curtains and keep the windows open for ventilation? They literally close the storm doors every day, open at 6, close about 10, 11, sometimes 1, and then that's it. And then I was talking to my friend Lucas from Australia, and he said the same thing. He says, the neighbors, you could almost time it. You know what time it is. And yeah, I know what time it is in the morning. When they open it at 6, I hear the gada, 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 gada. It's noisy. It's 6 a.m. It's almost like you can tell, you can set your clock by the storm shutters. Why do Japanese, okay, if you're Japanese and you're out there, why do Japanese close the storm shutters even when there is no typhoon or storm coming? Now, some people might say, okay, it's also security. So at night, okay, I could understand. Let's say you close it when it gets dark, you close it because of security. Yeah, it's more secure, of course. So that could be the reason. But why do they close it like, they opened it at 6 this morning, it's now closed, and it's going to be closed all the way through the day to the next day? It can't be security. We live in one of the safest places, and there's no typhoon coming. So I don't understand. If any of you know this, I've been in Japan over 30 years, and I always saw it, but I never really realized it until I started living here. And every morning, gada, 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 and every afternoon, early afternoon, gada, 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 they close the storm shutters. So, and then recently I've been more keen to open, and I do hear other people also, it's almost like, like when I was in Alaska, when somebody mows their lawn, other people mow their lawn too, right? Because it's like, oh yeah, I got to mow my lawn. Well, when they open or close the shutters, I hear others also doing the same thing. It's almost like the cue. Okay, we all better close the storm shutters. But my question still is, why close the storm shutters when it's hot and sunny and clear? If you know the answer, please write in the comments, because I do not understand why, first, you would close them in the day, and second, why you need to close them when there is no typhoon coming. Oh, okay, Michelle, she's never. Okay, Michelle, if you live in the kind of right next to a few houses, because I hear them around me. Anyway, that's my storm shutter question to all of you. And let's see, a couple other things. Oh, the rice. They're having a problem with the rice prices, right? The rice prices literally doubled. I talked about this in my last live stream. They doubled, and no one really could explain, but basically it was they had a poor yield the last 2 years, and international tourists booming, right? What are they eating? They're eating rice at other restaurants. They need more rice. Poor yield. Prices go up. Supply and demand. So the government steps in. They have rice from 2020, I think it was, or 2021, that, stockpiled just in case. And then they decided to release that and sell that. And so that brought the price down to, I think it was 2,000, half the price again. And then some of the high brand rices were complaining that it's too cheap, so then nobody buys their expensive rice. But I also saw another thing on the news the other day, NHK News, where they said that high brand rices, like certain markets, they maybe it's more in well-off areas, they keep the prices high, and people still buy it because some people said, I want to eat the best rice. I'm Japanese. I think we should eat the most delicious or best rice, so they'll pay for it. But again, the average person, a lot of them, they're going to go where the cheaper rice is, right? And in that agreement with the United States, with Trump, I think it said that they said they would allow 75% more rice into Japan or something. Well, that should hopefully stabilize everything. But the problem also is going on here is that because summer is so hot this year, especially, they are worried that it's going to affect the rice and the harvest, and they might have less rice, which would mean prices will go high again, or higher. So that's another issue with the whole rice thing. Like, how will the heat affect the rice harvest? Okay, so that's rice. Oh yeah, thank you, J-Star. I had a birthday last week. When you get my age, you probably don't want to see too many of them coming. You just hope that they take longer and longer to come. Oh, another thing that's going on really interesting is in Kyoto, in all of Japan, there's a matcha shortage. Matcha, the powder green tea. Now, my sister and my cousin Cheryl, they love this matcha, and I thought about getting them, looking for some matcha, because my friends sell matcha online. And then my two friends who sell, they said there's a matcha shortage, so you can't even get it at most places. And I'm thinking to myself, who is buying matcha? Like, for the longest time, when I was young, and when I first came to Japan, maybe over 30 years ago, I did ocha, omote sanke, right? I did ocha. And I thought to myself, this is crazy. No Westerner would ever want to do this or drink tea. You go through the whole motion. You got the little whisk, like that ochasen that you make, and then you serve the tea, and you go like, oh yeah, thank you so much, and look at the bowl. I thought to myself, foreigners would never go for this. It's like wasting time. They don't want to drink the tea. They say, why bother, right? But anyway, and so matcha was the base of that, right? Matcha is used when you make the tea ceremony, and you go to make ocha. I was wrong. Just like Hokkaido, I was wrong. I am wrong about this also. In the world, there is a matcha boom going on, and people want to order matcha, real matcha. And some of the equipment, like the ochasen is that, like that whisk that it looks like it's all like it's used to mix the tea for the tea ceremony. You cannot find those. There's a shortage because everybody's ordering them and buying them and taking them home. So there is a matcha and matcha equipment or device, or what do you call the tools of the trade. There's a shortage of that too. And I couldn't believe it, that I thought, who's gonna make matcha? I guess now, even if they use it in matcha latte or matcha something, okay, I understand maybe matcha there might be a little shortage and you use that. But who's going through the motion and mixing it and going like that and serving it? And I was flabbergasted in a way, because I never thought And again, so here again, I am wrong. I thought it would never catch on, and it has caught on, and now there's a matcha and matcha tool shortage going on right now in Japan and in the world right now. So just to let you know that. Okay. Another something interesting that has happened with my students is that I teach students who are going to go and study abroad from next month, and August, September. And a lot of them avoided America, of course, just because it's just so complicated, right? A couple of them applied. And of course, the visa, I was thinking was be a problem. So a lot of them applied to Canada. And what I just found out last week was the American bound students and some of the Canadian bound students, their visa has been either temporarily halted or they have to wait and they're not going to be able to make their flights. So they are stuck. And I could have guessed with the American bound students, this would happen, because they're just giving people a hard time, I think. But the Canadian, I couldn't understand. I would have thought, if I'm Canada, I'm going to open up the doors and let everybody come in now. Here's Canada's chance, right? I wish I was working in Canada and I was in charge of opening up the gates. I would get as many students, international students, as I could, because now's their time. Perfect timing with the way America is treating international students. Now's the time, right? Well, anyway, but there's a problem. So I had 3 students who said, oh, we cannot go because they're not releasing the visa. So I went online, I checked I used AI, and they said that Canada has, after Carney became prime minister, they have actually cut down their visas 10%, and they become much stricter. And there's a little bit more as they go through it, they become much stricter. And so I was surprised. So I don't know why, but my theory was that probably because Mark Carney came in with the anti-Trump vote and he won, but there's still the Trump people, or the people like Trump, the Trump people, and I guess maybe he wanted to give them something to show that he cares about Canada and Canada first too, or whatever. That I think they said, okay, we're going to be tighter on immigration and maybe on the students. I'm not sure. That's the only thing I could conclude, because I said, why would Canada suddenly become stricter about letting in students when this is their moment to open up the gates and get all those paying customers and students and whoever and people to come and love Canada and to stay in Canada? Because you can get an OPT, like you could stay after if you get a degree in Canada, and you can eventually apply for permanent residency and a citizenship eventually. So something else is going on there. But anyway, the Trump effect has, of course, affected the American-bound students, and they're stuck and they're waiting. I don't know if they're going to get it or not, their visa. They just went to an interview last week. I said, kind of close, right? And then the Canadian students, some of them, a lot of the Canadian students, they're not leaving until September 28th, so they probably feel they have time. But for these students who are supposed to leave in 2 weeks, it doesn't look like it's possible. So that has also affected study abroad. I also read in an article about how Tokyo University, in Asia especially, has become the number 2 most popular place that people want to study abroad. Not for a degree, but study abroad, right? Number 1 is Seoul in Korea. And number 2 is Tokyo University. So Japan is still a very open place that people want to come to study. I wouldn't say it gives you the same rigor as any Western university, but people do want to come. Okay. Oh, hi, Wally Bronson from Canada. Maybe, Wally, you know about that. Why is Canada being so strict with student visas and not just letting, people like my students come in? Hey, J-Star, America bullied. Yeah, America. That's the whole thing about America. So I think that's, a couple other things I talked about medical tourism the last time too, right? Like how I believe that medical tourism is going to start to take off in Japan and Asia. This is where people are going to start coming for that comprehensive body check, and that I think that's where it's going to go. And you're going to start seeing tours, combination of sightseeing and medical tour, like having a comprehensive checkup and sightseeing tours together. That package. That was my idea for when I was working at the medical group, because they were setting up an international health checkup center. but sad to say, they never listened to me. And I got the yellow card, and then eventually I thought I better leave because I wasn't helping. But that's what they needed to do. Nobody listens to me, right? Okay, so summers. There's a lot of festivals going on, of course, in the summer. The Tenjin Matsuri, my two friends just went last week. They said it was fun, and there was a dancing, the dancing, and the fireworks display is great. Of course, fireworks is huge in Japan in the summer. So if you come, you want to see like the Nagaoka. I think it's the first week of August. Nagaoka out in Niigata. That's the most famous. Probably that's where all the Olympic the people who made the Olympic firework displays and all. A lot of them come from learning from Nagaoka. So Nagaoka was the key. But anyway, in Japan, my two friends went, and they're from this Kyoto Nabe, and they really enjoyed it. They loved the dance and the traditional, and there are the fireworks in the back. I think they did something very smart, and I think this was a good idea. They actually got a hotel real close to the Tenjin, or in the Tenjin Matsuri, so in the Tenjin Festival, so that they could stay overnight. They wouldn't have to rush. They wouldn't have to worry. I think that's the way to go. Get a hotel within the festival district, so you can just go out of your hotel and you can experience it and go back. You don't have to worry about getting on the train. You don't have to worry about a toilet. That's the big thing, right? A toilet at these festivals. In fact, my sister was just telling me about that. She's planning this trip in October, and she, fireworks. And I told her the biggest thing for me when I went to fireworks festivals, like I went to the one in Hokkaido a couple years ago, was toilets. You don't have public toilets. A lot of times the convenience store, which normally you can use their facilities, they bar because there's too many people. Thousands, hundreds of thousands of people going. So toilets is the thing, right? And so my sister was all worried about it, right? I guess as we get older, we kind of worry about going to the toilet, right? So she was thinking of all the different ideas and things, and she finally came up with an idea that, she was so happy. She came up with a solution. Her friends are also from Hawaii are also going to attend this festival, and they're staying in a hotel at the festival area. So they were nice enough to offer, give us, I guess, a key or let us in to go to the toilet when we have to at their hotel room. Or you probably could go in. Most hotels have lobbies, but I'm sure they have people standing outside during these festival times, only allowing people who stay at the hotel to use their hotel, lest there be a big problem, right? So that was her solution. But just last week, because of the Tenjin Matsuri, I was getting ready with my class, right? Before class. And I heard the ladies speaking, my students. And it was kind of funny. And I never thought about this. But I don't know if it's true that a lot of people do this or not. So they were talking about the toilet. And they're saying something about there was a foreign lady, a foreign friend that they brought. And she really had to go to the toilet. So she had to go so much that she just started cutting in front of everybody and saying, excuse me, speaking English. And went to the front and used the toilet. Now, she was foreign, so she could probably do that and get away with it, right? Anyway, what they were quietly talking about was, they said, and I didn't hear everything, right? Because I'm eavesdropping, right? I'm working on my computer and they're sitting like a few seats away. They said that next time, they need to wear adult diaper. And I didn't really understand if they were saying that's a good idea, or they did it in the past, or that's what you should do. But then I thought, hey, that's not a bad idea. If there is no toilet, especially for women, it's hard sometimes. Maybe if you're going to these festivals, you can wear an adult diaper just in case you cannot find a toilet. I know this sounds a little bit crazy, but yeah, when you got 100,000 people or more around and people are drinking and they're going to the toilet, the lines are long for men, and then women are triple or whatever, maybe that's the solution. Or get a hotel in that area so you can just go to your room and to the toilet. I think that's a great idea. So my friends who did that, not for the toilet, but they did it because they want to take their son and they want to enjoy and have time and stay up late and all. Great idea. Even if you have to pay a little bit more, stay at the festival so you don't have to worry about rushing. to get back to your house or last train or getting back to your hotel if it's far away. It's a good idea. And maybe there's also the the adult diaper suggestion. Not a bad idea, right? I mean, and Japan has really high level adult diapers. So if you're interested, make sure you get the size. So the size is a little bit run a little smaller. So you want to make sure that you can get if you're a little bigger, you have to be careful about the size. But anyway, okay. Yes, okay, so Yuzo, yes, that's us, Tenjin Matsuri. Oh, okay, that was you. Okay, so Yuzo 53, they were the ones who went and enjoyed it. They shared with me a really nice video of the dancing and the fireworks in the back. It was really beautiful. I thought, wow, you know why? I was so surprised because I went to the Tenjin Matsuri 25, 30 years ago, and I was so disappointed. It was so crowded. It was so hot because it's always August. All I saw were people. I didn't even see a float. I was there for like 2 hours just walking behind people, walking back and forth across the bridge. Saw nothing, ate nothing. I think I drank a beer. That's it. And I thought, oh, I'll never go again. But then my friends, Yozo 53, they went and they showed me the video and the fireworks, and their strategy was to get a hotel room. That's the way to do it, probably. And you don't have to worry about a toilet, right? So maybe that's a better way to do it than trying to get to your hotel, which if it's far away, or if you live in Japan like me and you're trying to get the last train back, which is an hour and a half away from Osaka. Hard, right? Hard. Okay, so let's see. Mickey's bottle. Oh, okay, yeah. Alan Banks says this because when they came to Hawaii on their way to Japan, when they had to go to the bathroom in the car that I was driving, they went to the default Mickey's green bottle beer. Green bottle. Anyway, Moso Tube. Oh, hi from Vancouver, Canada. Great to hear from Japanese public perspective. Do they see this deal more as Ishiba LDB incompetencies or blame on the U.S. for taking advantage as Sanseito is getting support along with the young? Good question. I think for this agreement is there in a shikata ga nai. We have no choice but to accept it. They basically have been trapped and bullied into this position. Japan thought America was their friend. You're right. They're the number one investor in American bonds, U.S. bonds, right? And they work with them militarily. They've tried to. Japan wants to be America's friend, and they have goodwill towards America. And they thought the same would be reciprocated, but it's not so. On the face, this is where America is like two-faced, right? On the face, they go, oh yeah, you're a friend, we want to work with you. But underneath, it's to get whatever they can from Japan or any other country. So that's my own feeling, though. I could be wrong. So no one, some people say, oh yeah, Ishida, that's too much. 15% is too much. Other people said, oh good, he finally got something. And yes, Sanseito, the right wing, is getting more support among the young, and they took 14 seats, so there could be a little pressure there. But I think overall, it's just, we have no choice. We can't do a 25% tariff or a 50% tariff rate. So, maybe they'll take it now and maybe try to renegotiate if there's an election and someone else comes in. But again, it's hard to go backwards, right, once you accept. So I don't know. It's really, really hard. But I feel bad for Japan. They really thought America was their friend. And they're getting screwed in the you-know-what. Bullies. That's America. It's like a big bully. Okay, J Star, thank you for all the insight. You can have a longer live. Tony Montana des. Tony Montana. Are you from Tony Montana? Is that Montana? Tony Montana. Yes. Okay. Sorry, Zaf. I'm not sure what you mean. I'm going to end here. Just want to say thank you. I'll do another live stream, hopefully from Honolulu, Hawaii. I'll leave after I finish teaching. As I said before, this was my hardest class I ever taught in my life. This one class that it's the lowest level at the university, but wow. But it's been good for challenging my neuroplasticity at my age, making me, hopefully smarter, or at least my brain rewired to be a better teacher. But anyway, So that's the plan. I'm trying to get out. So I'm doing what we talked about before. Just escape. You gotta get out of the Japan summer. You gotta leave Japan. Okinawa's nice, but it's still very hot. But then, of course, you can't stay in Okinawa that long, right? Unless you have a friend, maybe. But Okinawa's nice, very hot. But at least you have a beach there, and it's an island, so you have some winds. But still, it's very, very hot and humid. So I just say get out of Japan and then come back when it's cooler. Okay. Okay. Oh, vitamin T. Thanks from Canada. JTR, please scolded me when I didn't go to form. Please go to me. Okay. Okay. I think if I missed your comment, I'm sorry. Thank you for joining me today. Thank you from Canada, Guatemala, all over the world, Kyoto Nabe. It's been a pleasure to have you on with me, and I hope to see you soon on my next live stream. Probably be in a couple of weeks from Honolulu, Hawaii. I'm not sure what it'll be on. Maybe it'll be on Pickleball in Hawaii, or maybe it'll be about just differences again. I'm going back. Every time I go back, I see new things. Thanks, Wally. Thanks, all of you. Thanks, J-Star. Thank you all. And I will see you in a couple of weeks. This is Mike signing off from the Man from Japan channel. Oh, you just now bought into the matcha thing. Yeah. J-Star's last comment is, yeah, I didn't think matcha was going to ever sell, but it is, But I do want to say, the matcha, last thing, the matcha that they use, like a lot of times in, like if you go to Thailand, they use matcha in matcha latte and all these things. I think that's the cheap matcha, the lower level matcha. And it's hard to say, really, is this the real matcha or not? The only way I know is you go by price, right? When it's like 2,000 yen or and over for a small bag, then that's probably the real thing. But if it's really cheap, then it's probably something else that's ground down into powder, I guess. It could be a lower form or whatever. But I don't know if people can actually tell the difference if it's in a latte or whatever. Maybe you don't need the expensive matcha for making lattes and mixing it. But if you're drinking matcha only, then yeah, you could tell, I'm sure. But maybe mixing it, you just get the cheaper version. I don't know. You would have to ask a matcha specialist. But again, I never thought matcha was going to catch on as far as with Americans or Westerners, but it is. And the matcha making equipment has also caught on, which I never thought would ever happen. So I was wrong. Anyway, 失礼しました. See you next time. Signing off. Thank you.